most damaging teaching, I can point right to it. The natural man is an enemy of God.
Ooh.
I have so many thoughts about all of the ideas expressed here, and I'm going to try to organize it in a coherent manner. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Jack is back. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? This is Jackson Wayne Paul with another installment of Jack Reacts. Many of you may have noticed that I've been kind of absent from the channel, and I hope you've been enjoying seeing Hayden's cute face on all the intros. He's been doing a great job holding down the fort as I've been gone, but we are back better than ever with no fear, just as Isaiah 41 tells us to, and for good reason, because we're going to be diving into some kind of controversial, I would say, topics when it comes to the post-LDS community. The videos that we have reacting to today come from a podcast that you may have seen on Instagram or on YouTube called the Girls Camp Podcast, run by Hayley Rawle. Now, I don't love to do these videos without at least reaching out to the person in question that the video I'm reacting to is about. But I reached out to her about 4 months ago. She didn't respond. A month later, and then 5 times in total, have not received a response to chat with her. I've sent her my phone number. Hayley, if you're watching this, I would love to have a one-on-one conversation with you about some of these topics. And so without any further ado, the videos that we're going to be reacting to today, there's going to be one that actually I agree with a lot of the things that she's saying, and I kind of want to talk about her ideas that she's putting forth. But the first one that we're going to be reacting to, I see as very problematic. She is promoting ideas that, in my belief, and as you know, with Jack Reacts, you're getting Jackson Wayne Paul's takes here, no one else's. She's promoting ideas that I believe are very foolish and actually damaging. So let's get right into it.
Most damaging teaching, I can point right to it. The natural man is an enemy of God.
Ooh.
The natural man or woman is an enemy to God. What is the most natural thing that we as like little wild animals do?
Sex.
We love.
Now, she uses some explicits here that I'm not going to make you guys watch, but she basically says, what is the most natural thing as we as animals like to do?
Like that is that is part of the most wild animalistic part of us. Not even in a couplehood, in a singlehood. We have to unlearn so many messages that we got about the natural man, the natural self is literally like Satan coming in, or a negative energy, or a evil energy, or an associated with deviance, sneaky,
Dangerous.
all this stuff. Like go back to the time where you felt like your sexuality still belonged to you, where you didn't know that what you were doing was bad, like touching yourself right there. Like to think how much we've learned, the downloads that we just over and over and over in our ears and then in our minds, and our bodies are listening. Ancestrally, it's been passed it through our DNA, some of the beliefs and some of the deeply rooted ideas about who we are as a natural human.
Yeah.
That if I even am aroused, that's already thinking that like I'm inviting this evil energy into my life. It makes the split for people where they have to literally villainize themselves to have any kind of sexual pleasure.
The caption on this video says, being told that we at our most natural state are enemies to God is crazier the further I get from it. And it enlightened so many things for me when Amy Heff connected that teaching to our Mormon views on sex. Sex isn't evil. And it's so sad that so many of us are taught this. Now, the teaching that they are referring to here comes from Mosiah chapter 3, verse 19, and I'll read it for us. It says, for the natural man is an enemy to God, and has been from the fall of Adam, and will be forever and ever. But if he yieldeth to the enticings of the Holy Spirit, and putteth off the natural man, becometh a saint through the atonement of Christ the Lord, and becometh as a child, submissive, meek, humble, patient, full of love, willing to submit to all things that the Lord seeth fit to inflict upon him, even as a child does submit to his father. I have so many thoughts about all of the ideas expressed here, and I'm going to try to organize it in a coherent manner. The very first thing I think is, God forbid anyone shows any ounce of discipline in their lives. And in my opinion, again, Jackson Wayne Paul's takes here, the idea that she's putting forth, the very first thing that she said was the most dangerous teaching. She can point to it. It is the natural man is an enemy to God. Now, let me give you a scenario. My brother Hayden has a 3-year-old son named Walker and a 1.5-year-old daughter named Lainey. And a few months back, Walker, his new favorite thing became shoving Lainey to the ground whenever he saw she was getting more attention than him. Now, I don't believe this is something that Hayden taught him. I don't believe that other people said, yeah, this is good to do. Whenever you feel that you're not getting enough attention, go ahead and take your sister and shove her to the ground. Actually, insert video here. This is a silly video. So as you see, Walker, this is something that's coming from him. You know, he's feeling frustrated. And so he's going to go over naturally to his little sister, shove her to the floor. And that's great because the most damaging teaching we learned from this wonderful lady here, Amy Heff, that the natural man isn't an enemy to God, and we should just indulge in whatever we want to do naturally, right? Just as she says, the little animals that we are. Now, another example, let's say someone says something to me to make me very angry, right? Like insults my family or something like very serious. And my first reaction is to lash out at them and maybe even cause physical harm to them. If that's my natural reaction, shouldn't I just be able to indulge in that, right? Because the teaching, the natural man is an enemy of God, that's just a bunch of malarkey, right? So let me just naturally indulge in that, right? And everything's okay. Guys, I hope that just by reiterating their own argument, you can see how foolish this is. Another thing that kind of, I guess, bothers me is that they take these teachings and act like they are just specific to the LDS church when in every New Testament that I've ever opened, Jesus Christ at one point says, "It has been said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, he who looketh upon a woman to lust after her hath already committed adultery in his heart." What does that sound like to you? That sounds like Christ isn't just saying don't commit adultery, don't have sex outside of marriage, but don't even think about lusting after another woman. So Christ himself is saying this. This is not like some specific thing, you know, obviously it is emphasized in the Book of Mormon in this way, but Christ has promoted this teaching from the beginning, right? That we should not listen to the enticings of the adversary, but we should seek after God, follow Christ's commandments, and become new creatures in Christ so that we no longer have these desires to do such thing. Now, I know this may be like a different video than we've ever made before. It has everything to do with the Book of Mormon and the teachings of Jesus Christ. And the problem and the reason I wanted to make this video is because this girl is getting so many views, so much attention on her channel. Now, going back to her caption that sex isn't evil and it's so sad many of us were taught this. Yeah, I mean, if you were taught that sex is evil, yeah, I feel bad. Then that is such an incorrect teaching. What I was taught, on the other hand, is that those type of relations will best flourish inside a committed relationship between a husband and a wife, legally and lawfully married. Now, you don't have to be religious to hold that thought. Statistics speak for themselves. And many of you have probably heard me say this on the channel before, but you know, when I went through boot camp and infantry training with the Marine Corps, I got asked so many times, oh, Paul, you can't have sex. You're still a virgin, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, dude, I can have sex whenever I want, bro. I can do it whenever I want with whoever I want. And they're like, oh, well, are you a virgin? I'm like, oh, yeah, 100%. And they're like, okay, why? I'm like, because I have seen those type of relations destroy people's lives with unplanned pregnancies, with STDs, just destroying relationships by engaging in those things with someone that you don't actually really truly love, and it ends up causing more harm than good. Oh, and the other thing is I believe in God and that, you know, it's a commandment from him that we ought not to. And I don't see that the reward from indulging in that outweighs the blessings that I have felt in my life from not. Does that make sense? And so, guys, like I said, I hope you can just see right through this as I just reiterate their own argument here. But Hayley, if you see this, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a one-on-one conversation in regards to this. Now, just one more verse that I'd love to share with you in the Bible where it talks about the natural man in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. It says, "But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. Neither can he know them because they are spiritually discerned." So I don't blame them for having this perspective because obviously they have now fully indulged into their natural selves, right? Whatever that may look like. Obviously they show pretty well what that looks like for them. So obviously the things from the scriptures are going to be foolish unto them. So I don't super blame them, but for anyone that has watched your video and thought like, yeah, you know what? I should indulge in whatever I naturally want. I should. That's a good idea. All right, so this next video in question is one that I actually heavily agree with a lot of the things that she says, and we'll get into it.
My husband and I want to leave the church, but we are so scared of our family's reaction, especially my family's. If we leave, my mom will never talk to me again. I'm so sorry. Sometimes doing this podcast, I wonder if this is even necessary. Am I beating a dead horse? And questions like this really remind me and ground me in the purpose of doing girls camp. There is so much at stake for so many people. For so many people who feel so misaligned in Mormonism, who feel like they're pretending, who feel like they are hiding and burying their true selves and want to leave the church, they are facing this insane dilemma. Do I do what feels right by me in leaving the Mormon church? But in doing that, I will lose the relationship I have with my mother, with my parents, with my family. That is so heavy and so serious. It just helps me remember how important it is that we are talking about these things, that we are bringing some of these dynamics that are so harmful and so toxic to light, and that hopefully through spaces like this, people can feel less alone in such an immensely challenging process. It's just not fair for any human being to be in a situation where they feel like they have to be aligned with.
Now, in my life, I have seen a handful of examples in which people in my extended family or friends have left the church and have received a very negative reaction and backlash from their parents, family, siblings, what have you, after deciding to leave the church. And it has kind of destroyed that relationship. And I agree with her. That is such a damaging thing. If your ability to have a healthy, loving relationship with someone relies on you guys sharing the exact same beliefs and practices in life, I just would love in the comments for you to point me to one of Christ's teachings that promotes that behavior. Of, for example, if your son or daughter leaves the church and then you cut them off and treat them negatively and you're not able to have a healthy relationship with them. Now, I understand if your son or daughter leaves the church and then they are actively trying to persuade you to leave and tear down the beliefs that you hold to be near and dear to your heart, obviously then that is grounds for, setting boundaries, having productive conversations so that people understand, hey, I accept that you don't want to choose this path for your life, but it's something that I want to continue living. And so please respect my right to do so as I respect your right to not follow. I mean, I have people in my friend circle and, close family that aren't currently active members of the church and have decided to leave. And guess what? I love and hang out with them all the same. A lot of my friends are Marines. They're not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a lot of them aren't members of any church. But guess what? We're homies nonetheless, because I can see if I'm actually going to strive to follow the example of Jesus Christ, I don't see how it's productive if, my desired outcome is that one day they do return back to God and Jesus Christ and we can live together in happiness. I don't see how it's productive for me to then treat them poorly and cut them out of my life if they choose to leave the church. So what I'm saying here is, Hayley, thank you for expressing this, because it is truly a problem and a very un-Christ-like attitude to hold, especially if you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it is something that we need to eradicate completely. And no, I'm not actively advocating to support or encourage any behavior that is inappropriate or damaging, but I'm saying that just because someone doesn't want to live the same standards as you, but wants to continue to have a good, healthy relationship, you shouldn't treat them any differently. You should love them all the same. So in summary, guys, pick up your scriptures. After this video, turn off YouTube and go and get into the words of Jesus Christ, because I'm speaking from my own experience here, that as I read the words of Jesus Christ and his teachings, I feel more love for those around me, and I am more anxious to serve those around me, my wife, my friends, my family. And I know that we shouldn't always just indulge in all of the things that we naturally feel that we should do, but showing and developing discipline against those natural reactions isn't a bad thing, and we shouldn't demonize that. Hayley, please reach out to me. I'd love to come on your show and have a very constructive and chill conversation about some of these topics. Anyways, with that, like I said, turn off YouTube, stay curious and hungry, and good to be back.